So that will be skipped. We have a Head Start update, and you know Dr. Haley Stewart will come up. I just need to get a little preamble to this. From this voting meeting forward, we're going to need to add a section of vote for you, and Judy and I talked about it. We have to, by Head Start regulations, you are the board for Head Start as well. There is a policy council, but you're actually the official Board of Education over it. So monthly, just like you receive a special education report, a committee on special ed report, you also will be receiving a Head Start report. And that has to be approved or unapproved. It has to go in the minutes, and we need to show that to the federal government that you're aware of not only what's going on with the program, but what we're doing in terms of spending. So I thought today would be a good chance, since we're about 5 weeks into the program, for Dr. Haley Stewart to come forward, show everybody the report and explain it. We can't probably do this every week, but every month, but this will be symbolic of what you'll be asked to approve. It's gone well. As we suspected, Dr. Haley Stewart has done a very good job. It's been smooth, and I'd like to invite her to come to the mic and share 4 or 5 slides about our Head Start program. And I think she starts off in a really good way. So, Lynette, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Laurie, and thank you to all of the board members and the community for your support on our Head Start initiative. This is very exciting. The day we were waiting for finally happened, and I think we're really off to a great start. Some of the strengths that have been identified during this startup period is we're very fortunate that we transitioned teachers that were already caregivers for these children. I'm sure you can imagine, especially individuals here that have had time in the classroom, it takes a while to build a rapport with families, with children, and so the teachers are the same teachers they had previously. So that helps for continuity of care, and also they're using the Teaching Strategies Gold curriculum, which is the same curriculum used by the pre-K 3 and 4 in the school district. So they already were trained in the curriculum. They're using the curriculum and the checkpoints and all the things that are involved with that. So we were very fortunate. Had we inherited a program where they weren't using the same curriculum that we're using, in our model, we would have had to go through training for that. So that's saving us some time and some monies right there. Early Head Start and Head Start staff, again, emphasizing great relationships with families. And they also possess the knowledge of Head Start, and there's lots and lots of regulations, as you know, with state or federal types of programs. There's always regulations you have to follow. They're very familiar with that, as well as the Office of Children and Family Services. That's the licensing entity for New York State to serve children that are infants, toddlers, and preschool age that are not in a school setting. So they have a clear understanding of all of that. Again, that's a strength. As a whole staff, we're seeing them demonstrating a willingness to work, an enthusiasm, and I have to say, I see a reinvigoration that they're under the district. They feel really happy to be a part of the district. And after a few years of going through some challenges when CAO had lost the grant, prior to that Niagara County, and then having the interim, they're looking for some stability as I'm gathering and learning a little bit more about the staff, and they're so happy to be a part of the Niagara Falls City School District. The Parent Policy Council, the officers have already been selected under the interim agency. They received some training. We are revisiting the bylaws because we'll make some revisions to that because we plan to expand a larger program, so having more membership of the Policy Council that is the representative parent voice of the parent centers. But they're doing a great job. They understand their role in program governance, which is different than your role in program governance. Again, thanking all of you for your strong commitment to this labor of love that we went through for a few years before we got to this point. And we have community partners eager to engage and collaborate. You might recall that when we submitted the grant, we had over 50 letters from all these various partners that wanted to be involved in some capacity. And we are now bringing that vision to life. So Mr. Laurie has talked with partners. I have re-engaged partners because basically we said once we get up and running, we'll come back around and revisit that. So in the coming months, we'll probably put forth some MOUs, memorandums of understanding, some partnership agreements. And what will benefit, we look at that 24th Street location as becoming a community hub. And on the second floor, having those community partners there, such as Cornell Cooperative Extension, WIC, Pinnacle, and that's just to name a few, where the Head Start and school district parents for the whole program, so not just Head Start and early Head Start, but for the whole community, can have a hub, of a place to go for services and help enhance our programming. Strong support from the Office of Head Start's regional program specialist. The individual that I've mainly been working with is Wendy Garrett, and she has been wonderful in providing us the support we need to be successful as a new grantee. I have regular phone calls with her, and then I convey what was discussed with Mr. Laurie, so he's aware of where we're at, and the Policy Council and board pieces are some of the things we've talked about recently. And we have recently been assigned a TNTA support specialist, and they will give us support in training for staff as we identify it. So as we identify a need, there'll be virtual trainings and other training opportunities once people can be face-to-face, where sometimes they send somebody to come here to help work with us, or we go somewhere else. So we have a TNTA support specialist, and her name is Stephanie Mullen. So those are all really good things that are happening. Now, of course, with any new endeavor, there's going to be some challenges. And I was up for that heavy lifting in the beginning because it comes with the territory. With anything new and worthwhile, there's going to be some heavy lifting in the beginning. So we did inherit a program that was under-enrolled significantly. On January 1st, they only had 46 children enrolled in their Head Start program. And so we've put a lot of effort forth, and on another slide later, you'll see where we've been moving up in that enrollment goal. But that was a bit of a, a bit troubling to Mr. Laurie and I. Oh boy, just 46, that's all they have, but we're working on strategies to increase that enrollment, and we already have gotten it up, and you'll see that in another slide. Staff adapting to new processes and protocols. When you're a new employee in a new organization, a new company, with that comes different protocols, different processes. Who do I talk to about this? Who do I talk to about that? Well, staff have been learning that. And as the director, they're supposed to come to me, unless there's someone underneath me, so to speak, with the chain of command. There's a center director. But there was a couple of times where people reached out and they should have really gone through a different channel. That's normal sometimes in a new organization.
Like when they said, Earl, move the snow away from my car.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one rings a bell.
He's
moving the
So
I got an email that says, the employee says, I need Earl to move snow away from my car. I'm like, who are you?
yeah.
Earl doesn't even move snow away from my car.
So it's those kinds of things, and they're little in the big scheme of things. They're little, and we're handling those. Staff getting used to new processes and protocols. We have acquired, if you didn't know already, I'll tell you now, but I think you might know this already, we've acquired an excessive inventory of materials and equipment. And currently I'm working with the program manager, Sarah Bridges, as well as the Head Start administrative leadership team on, and I don't mean the district Head Start leadership team, but the Head Start program leadership team on working on developing an efficient plan and a timeline to start sorting through those items, because there is an excessive amount, more than I've ever experienced anywhere else I've ever been in all these years. And Mr. Laurie has shared that as well. So we plan to start with DeFrancesco, especially because we want to free up the space on the second floor to make more efficient use for our programming. So we're going to start tackling that place first. Then we'll work on the other places. But, I mean, there's everything from, I'm not kidding you, from washers and dryers to copy machines to some brand new equipment, cots and other types of classroom equipment, and then there's things like paints and papers and things. Those perishables we'll definitely use. You can never have too much of that, but there is an overabundance of certain things that we may never use, and the regional office will work with us on finding another Head Start program perhaps in the area in Western New York to make it available for whatever we don't want after we go through it. But it will take time, and there could even be some, I hate to say it, but maybe some broken things that were left over from previous programs. You know, I'm sure building principals and their teachers find the same thing happen. You know, they've kept puzzles that are missing pieces, or a table with a broken leg that nobody's going to fix, or it's not repairable. So we have to go through those things, and that's going to take some time. Attendance reports. Typically in Head Start programs, you have to maintain 85% of attendance for children, and attendance is checked daily, and there are family advocates that are assigned to families, and they follow up with families to find out why children are not present. Because of COVID, in the last couple of years, the federal government has loosened up that 85% rule, because they know there's still families that maybe have some family members with compromised health and might be fearful to send their child in to program. Maybe they're quarantining as a family or in isolation because someone in the family has COVID. So they've loosened that rule up for right now. But I wanted you to be aware that I have asked for, and I've been receiving, I get an attendance report every single day by noon, so I know exactly who's here, who isn't here, and why are they not here. And from the attendance reports, we still have quite a few of the absences are related in some way to COVID. I mean, we've only been open to children since January 5th. We've had a few snow days there, here and there, but I wanted to give you a little snapshot of what I've seen so far. And a survey actually just went out today, and I received it from the New York State Head Start Collaboration Director, who is also the co-chair of the Early Childhood Advisory Council, Patty Purcell. They sent a survey out to all Head Start directors today, and they wanted to know a little bit more about attendance and just what's happening, not just for students, but for staff as well. And it was all around COVID to be more responsive. So interesting that that's on the slide here. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Also, keeping up with the evolving changes with COVID regulations. Now, I know that's happening in the school district and school community setting. Head Start is subject to OCFS, the Office of Children and Family Services regulations, as well as Head Start. And as this continues to evolve, we continue to have changes happening all the time, and Dr. Joe's keeping up with them, and we're keeping up with them. They have to quarantine for 10 days, then it's 5 days, and so that's been a bit of a challenge to navigate just in the past 6 weeks or so, because there's been changes, and we now know that there's changes on the horizon possibly regarding mask wearing, but I tend to think, I'll be surprised, if they let up the mask rule in schools, I think it will probably still be likely in Head Start, because those children are unable to be vaccinated at this point, and they fall under the New York State Office of Children and Family Services, and federally, they still have the masking rule as well for Head Start as a federal program. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. We also do temperature checks of every single child when they come in every single day, and every visitor to make sure that there's no symptoms, and if there are, then we have to go right into the protocol of what that happens to be and inform Dr. Joe. Transfer of TSG student data. Now, TSG, Teaching Strategies Gold, is the curriculum, as I mentioned, and there is student data that the previous interim agency was keeping track of under their account. In order to receive that for us, so the teachers don't have to start over again inputting all of that data, and believe me, there's a lot of data, because you've got checkpoints, you have observations, and a host of other things. So what was supposed to happen is it was supposed to be transferred over in January, and they said it could be up to 2 weeks. As of Friday, we still didn't have it. So I spoke with the folks over at Teaching Strategies Gold. I'm not sure what's happening with their tech department, but they now have promised it's supposed to be there by the end of the day tomorrow. So I will fingers crossed it's there, because teachers get a little panicky. Oh my God, am I going to have to input all this data again? No, just hold out. It's going to appear there. So we're checking, and I've been told by the end of the day tomorrow it will be there. So as a result of that, we've had to adjust what they call checkpoints. I know, Rick, you're familiar with checkpoints, of what that is. But the checkpoints are the dates where it's measurable outcomes of children, where they are reaching milestones of progress in their assessments of those domains of early learning. So otherwise, if we didn't adjust the checkpoints, it would have interfered with the next checkpoint and the next. So we've had to slightly just adjust them a little bit for the remainder of this program year.
So just to summarize, it's gone well. The integration has gone well. Dr. Haley Stewart has done well. It's not without our staff, Earl, Richard, Becky, Ray, Maria. They've formed a team that's made this happen. My major challenge and concern is the enrollment number. It's not where it needs to be. I've set a goal every week to increase that enrollment number. I know there are children out there because Richard has helped us study the live births from the county, so we know how many pre-K kids there actually are. And I'm going to push this until we get to our 181. The other point I want to make before we quickly go through the finances is that right now, you only own by title the 24th Street DeFrancesco building, okay? You do not yet own title to the Donovan building. We don't. Our attorney has worked for the last 2 months with their attorney. We have a environmental issue that looks like it's coming to it looks like it's coming to a report. Once that report comes forth, we will review what remediation has to be taken. Our Head Start program will not pay for it. There is federal money that will, if there is some sort of remediation. And the remediation is not in the building per se, it's in the parking lot. So we don't yet have it. I was given an email this week along with Earl. We think we're getting close. I shared it with our attorney. But we're moving cautiously on taking any other property until our attorney is satisfied and that any environmental issues are just settled. But we're moving cautiously and we'll get there. We do have some, I think the next slide's numbers.
Yeah. You know, I just want to publicly thank too Earl and Richard and Becky and Maria and Anthony and Mr. Laurie and all of you. But I have to tell you, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of this without that other Head Start team. And Rick sat in on some meetings and helped us out too. I mean, it really has taken a community to pull this together. And I want to thank you because you all have gone above and beyond, and I've truly appreciated that, all that heavy lifting before we even had the staff come on board and the children and all of that. So thank you.
And their pay remains the same as you go to the next line.
Okay.
I think it's what I talked about.
This next slide is just taking a little snapshot of the federal regulation. And again, Mr. Laurie already spoke to the fact that as the Board of Ed, you will be presented with a Head Start program and fiscal report at your monthly board meetings as required by the Head Start regulations. And the reports will always include enrollment and fiscal information, but additional program information may include, when applicable, things like personnel matters, changes to proposed program design, community needs presentations, MOUs, any Head Start contractual services, things of that nature. So some months you may have a little bit more information. This is our first month reporting on some things from January, so we don't have a lot to report yet.
No, but the federal government and Head Start regulations also allows for board members to receive an additional stipend on top of the stipend they're already receiving. Yeah. That's, if you're listening, that's nothing. These individuals continue to work for free. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure.
Could we have a list of the people that are on the Head Start board or parents involved?
The Parent Policy Council,
Yeah.
there's only 3 right now. And one, the community member is Ezra Scott, you know him, right?
Yeah.
The parent, I know first names.
What I'll do tomorrow is I'll email you the names.
Yeah, I don't want to
And-
mispronounce
Text
their
them. I
last
don't
names,
do
but
that
there's
anymore.
3. right now, but we
Well,
will expand that.
He's asking because we'll see, that we invited them to the district parent committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
But-
that's fine then. I
yeah.
just wanted for
Yes,
curiosity.
there's
sake.
three,
I just
Lindsay
wanna
and
know where-
Danielle, and their last names escape me right
But I'll
now.
email you their names, and as you see, attending the parent meeting, we want them to feel part of our parent group. Yeah, so,
Absolutely.
good.
How many students do we have now?
You're going to see that on the next
Go
slide.
ahead, Ray.
There we go. So right now, as of today, we have 61 in Head Start. There's 7 additional children that have been accepted, and they're all registered to start. They just have to enter, so it could be tomorrow, could be Monday. So there's 60, that'll bring us up to 68. Then we have 9 on the waiting list. Now, the waiting list, of that, 8 of them are verified eligible, and what that means is they meet all of the eligibility requirements spelled out in the federal regulation, but you have to, by OCFS standards, have to have your physical and your immunizations. So parents are getting that information, and then they will be moved up as accepted to enter. And that goes for public schools too, for those kinds of things. So if you add that other 8 of the verified eligible, it'll bring us up to 76. And then there's one that's considered verified over income, and I just want to address the over income real quick. The federal government allows us to have 10% of our enrollment outside of the income guidelines, okay? Now, that being said, there's the federal guidelines of 100% meeting the poverty guidelines. Then 35% of our enrollment can be between 100 to 130 above the poverty level. So you have some opportunity there. And then 10% can be over that. We have a community where there is a high need, so many of the families in the Niagara Falls City School District do meet that one of those regulations there. But 10% were allowed to be over income. So that child, because they're over income, doesn't mean that they're not going to get in. It's just something we have to keep an eye on, the percentage of the larger picture of things. And when we inherited the program on January 1, they were hovering at around 15% of 10%. So they were already exceeding that, which their enrollment was low, but as our enrollment increases with more income eligible children, that percentage will drop, and now we're at about 12%, so it's dropping down. We're almost at the 10%. So some of the over income families still may get in, and oftentimes they may be slots for children with an IEP, a special need, and this might be determined from their CPSE meeting that this is the best placement for them. So
here's what we're doing, to your point, Mr. Petrosi. On January 1st, there was 46. I said, okay, every week I give the team an enrollment number I want them to hit, every week, because there are people there that can go recruit kids. Tomorrow's enrollment number was 74. Next week's, I'm telling you right now, next week I want to see 80. They've got to go out in the community and find these students to be there. So between now and the time when we get to a satisfactory enrollment, because that's not satisfactory, I'm going to set a weekly goal for the team and ask to hit it. I asked for 74 this week. If we can get these 8 kids in, we'll make it. And next week, my expectation's 80. By the end of February, I'd like to see 94. So I want to put that out there because I want them to strive for a goal. 181 with 140, with 140 being 3- and 4-year-olds, and 41 being 1- and 2-year-olds. So EHS, Head Start is 3 and 4, Mr. Capizzi, and then sometimes we'll refer in here to EHS, Early Head Start, that's for 1- and 2-year-olds. And that's why it's important we get Donovan licensed right away, because we can't put the EHS kids in DeFrancesco because of egress, rolling cribs outside. You can do it at Donovan on Main, you know the building. So that's why I made the comment earlier about getting this licensing done. Go ahead. Yep. Yeah.
no, and that
We-
center doesn't actually, can't
Yeah.
fit 181. They'd be in other
No,
locations.
we're not, and I'm not, until I see the kids, I'm not adding staff. So I'm holding, you'll see, if you go to the next slide, I think it is, Ray.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the early Head Start, the high need in our community, though. If you see, we have 40 early Head Start slots in the way the design was that we presented in our grant that was approved. But on the wait list alone, we have 42 verified and eligible. They're all ready to come in. So that is a very telling number right there, that in the future, thinking ahead, we may, and I believe Mr. Laurie might have mentioned this at the November meeting, we may have to look for, if looking ahead, ask for a conversion of slots.
Yeah.
Because the need seems to be greater from what we're seeing for early Head Start versus Head Start. And there's a process we can go through to convert slots. So the number would shift and it would be fewer. You would go from 16 Head Start in one classroom to 8 early Head Start, and the cost per child is more in an early Head Start classroom. It's a very different.
So there's a lower need for the 3 and 4-year-olds, right? Because we have programs for 3 and 4-year-olds, right? So we have those programs. We're competing against ourselves right now. So I wanted to get the program, take their 140 for the 3 and 4-year-olds and their 40 for the 1 and 2s. And then once we got the program, we're going to write a program amendment to reverse that. We'll go to maybe not 80 or 90 or whatever we can fit in the budget, 3 and 4-year-olds, and go to 90 1 and 2-year-olds, because the need is to get them at 1 and 2. But we had to get in the door first. Mm-hmm. And once we get in the door, it's a lot easier to convert it. But I'm not satisfied with 68 or 76. We can push harder and get more. Okay? Does that make sense? So we're going to come back to you at some point, not this year, and say, I want to reverse that. First of all, I have to get the building where we can put them. And once we get the building, then we'll come back and say, you know what, we want to write a project amendment to change the 141 and 40 to maybe 181. Because we got a lot of 1 and 2-year-old parents who want us right now, and we just can't take them all. So, but what we were advised is get the program first and then make the conversion. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
What would the difference be between our program of 3 and 4-year-olds and Head Start program? Are we really just apples and apples competing, or does one offer things that the other one doesn't?
Yeah, that's a good question, and a lot of people are unaware of the comprehensive nature of the Head Start program. You might know that it came out about under the war on poverty in the Johnson administration, and Sergeant Shriver was very involved in developing that, and they wanted a comprehensive plan because children, especially children coming from economically challenged communities, often don't have dental health care, let's say that. So if a child's teeth are rotting, it's going to affect their learning. So I'm using that as one example. There can be other examples like that. So it's comprehensive in nature, and for Head Start, there's comprehensive screenings that have to happen for every single child that is above and beyond what the education department has. So every child has to have a dental exam, every child. And you have resources to get that done. If they don't have health insurance, we have to help them get health insurance. I'm using that as one example. And there's screenings that have to take place within 45 days and some within 90 days of enrollment. The other piece is the parent engagement component and the family partnership agreement. Every family is assigned a family advocate that helps them understand their child's education, helps them if they have goals. Maybe they were a teen mom and they dropped out of school and they want to go back to school. So it's really comprehensive and not just what's happening in the classroom, and that's no discredit to the important work that happens in pre-K programs. I'm all for that. But Head Start is for families that may need something more, something more to help them along and hopefully help them towards self-sufficiency and be a good role model for their children.
It's a really good question, Russ, because it seems like we're competing against Maple Avenue and Galphus, right? So the programs are the same because we help our 3 and 4-year-olds get dental. We don't have to, we just do it.
Right.
Here we must.
That's
number one.
That's a good point.
That's number
Mark.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is what you said when you were sitting in that seat. I'll never forget it because I do listen to you once a month. What you said was these parents, and we try to engage our 3 and 4-year-old parents, don't get me wrong, these parents must be engaged to keep their kid in Head Start. Do you remember what you said? You remember what you said? This can't be a babysitting service. And these parents must be engaged, must, and we have more family advocates to go out there. And we have to document that. Do we do that for our own 3 and 4-year-old kids? Of course we do. But these are musts, and we have to prove that to keep our funding.
Yeah, when they do start federal reviews, they'll do a cycle, so they might just do the health area. So they'll come in and they'll check all the child's health files, all the screenings, all the, if there was a need identified, was it addressed? They might have another, time they're just going to check the human resources or fiscal aspects of the program. They'll have another time they're going to come check out how we are implementing the curriculum. So they send a federal review team out for each of those. They don't happen simultaneously, but it's on a cycle. We're pretty good for a while because we're a new program, but probably in 2023, at some point, they'll start the cycle of checking different things. And they sort of put a kibosh on some of that during COVID anyway, so hopefully we're past this COVID time at that point.
So this is one of the budget pages.
Yep, so this is what the monthly one would look like. So it gives you a progress this is all reporting on January, so you'll always get a report of the previous month. So as of January 31st, you can see what the cost allocation was for our Head Start grant, our early Head Start, because they're broken down into 2 separate pieces. And then the year-to-date expenses. As you know, we just officially took over the program, meaning the whole program. So we haven't had a whole bunch of expenses up to this point, but that will change as the months go on. And you can see our year-to-date remaining balances, the amount of monies that are encumbered already, designated for things, and then the TNTA's training and technical assistant budget. And then we have what's called the startup budget, and some of those monies may be reallocated to things, and our team's going to be meeting tomorrow to look at some of the things that are coming up that we know we need to address.
So to your point, Mr. Capizzi, we're not going to add staff until we get the numbers. But what we're going to do with some of this money is we're going to make some repairs. For instance, 24th Street needs a desperate look at the elevator. And that's going to be one of Earl's job number 1. And you may next month see money come out of this for some elevator work. Because we can't roll this over, right, Richard? We don't roll this over. We can't, this is not like our grants where if we don't spend it, we can save it and bank. No, it goes away June 30th, 2022. So tomorrow's agenda is twofold for me. What are we doing about enrollment? And what I won't call them capital projects, but what infrastructure projects does Earl need to take on to get that 24th Street building back up to snuff? So,
Looking at the numbers, like the allocation 1.2, we have less children. Does that affect that number? I'm sorry.
It won't affect, if we shift and we do the conversion of slots,
No.
that would be different.
Rephrase the question. We get 1.2 million based on 180 slots.
Yep.
Oh,
We
okay,
only
I'm
have-
understanding your
We only
question
have
now.
100 slots.
Yes.
But they're going to reduce that number.
Not right away. What they would do is, it would have to be several months of not meeting the enrollment, and then they would put you on an improvement plan for a long period of time before they take any money away. So, but they did, Mr. Laurie had that same question at a meeting we had with the
but Russ and I are
regional
very
office.
similar.
So,
We wear white shirts, we go to the same dry cleaner.
Yeah,
We're
that's
very
a good
similar.
question.
We're very, politically, we're similar now. Anyways, they're going to give us some grace period, because we said, what the heck? You gave us a program with 46 kids, you gave us a building where I need some things, they're going to work with us for the first year. But going forward, that's why that attendance number's got to follow the allocation we get. So they're going to give us 9 months here, and then we got to produce kids. And COVID helped us in this case. But you got it. You got the formula. It's based on that number of 181. As our pre-K grants are like that too. So I'm going to tell you about an audit we're having right now. And the first question the auditor asked Richard, Kathy, Sullivan, and I today, what's your pre-K 3 and 4 enrollment in the district? We said 96%. She said, oh, that's pretty good. She said, well, you have till March 1st to get it to 100% in order to get the full $5 million funding. So they're watching numbers of kids very closely. We have one more slide?
So that margin
Yeah.
stays the same, Mark? Because under 1.2 million with 68 students, that's equivalent to 18,000 a student?
Yeah, yes. That March is for our district program. Okay. This one, they're going to give us extension through September, October of this year because of the way we came into it. You know what I mean? I may have confused you because we're having a pre-K 3 and 4 audit, okay, from the state. We receive, I wrote it down, and I just want you to know this, we receive $4.3 million from the state to run our district pre-K 3 and 4 program. And in order to get the full $4.3 million, we've got to have 100% enrollment, which translates into 400 kids? 520 kids. So we're at, right now, today, we're at 96% of 520 kids. So we're missing a few. Kids leave, they come, they leave. So we've got to go shake the bushes for about 10 or 15 more kids to get that full funding. Now on this funding, they'll allow us to keep that money now, but going forward, after this year of grace, we've got to do what you asked for, what you stated was. We got to keep the 181 to keep the 2.1 million. I hope that's clear, because it can get really confusing.
Or we shift it to early Head Start.
we
We keep
shift
the
it,
same
yeah.
amount, it's just the ratio is different of the way it would be presented with the dollars.
If I could ask another question. Okay, we have them all the way 1 to 4 now, or 1 to 5, whatever the ages are. Why are we having trouble filling these slots? Wouldn't the parents want to put their kids at school?
Well, you have to keep in mind,
No.
we just took over the program, so we inherited a next to nothing wait list from
Well,
the
I'm asking
previous
that question
organization.
all the way up, because we have 3 and 4 years old.
Two reasons that I see. One, they're my babies and they're COVID. They're my babies. They're my baby, and I'm being genuine. I might feel that way about my children. That's my baby. I don't want to go. Yeah, I don't know. They're my baby. I don't want to let them go. That's happened to our pre-K numbers. We don't have the greatest pre-K attendance numbers either all the time. They're my babies. I don't want to leave them. And we're going to speak openly and honestly. Transportation is we don't bus any of these. It's a bugaboo. You mean you don't have transportation? Not yet. We're going to work on it. That's a big thing that they ask. That's right. So, yeah, I want to sign up my kid. Where is it? Yeah, all right, can I get a bus? No. Oh, nah. That's the conversation that happens frequently. So, we've got ideas.
How would we bus 2 and 3 year olds?
We've got
The
some
bus
work
in
to
both
do.
directions, take the parents and bring them back?
Yep, yeah. Yeah, we could use vans. I mean, there's some ideas we can have.
Yeah, there's different regulations for
vans.
transporting infants and toddlers, if we're going to do
Right,
that
but
at some
Would you
point.
transport them without the parents, or bring the parents back home?
No, you can pick them up without the parents, and it's a different type of transportation, so you can't think of it the same way as a school bus. It's a
have that
different kind of
conversation.
approach.
Yeah. No, it's not on the big school
But
buses. I would never do that.
It's usually a van that's outfitted for transporting infants and toddlers.
And
yeah.
you know what, Russ, my initial knee jerk to your statement is, no, I think I want the parents to come. To start.
So far, I will
want
point
them to
out,
come.
so far, those attendance records I've been reviewing, transportation's not been the big issue. And I've been there in the morning to see all the cars coming and dropping off the children and
You go
walking in.
go there at
So,
8:45 to 24th
kind of
Street.
interesting.
Go to 24th
So
Street
far,
someday.
it
At
has not emerged as the
8:45,
primary issue.
You will see a steady stream of cabs. You'll see a steady stream of cabs. Yep, yeah. With the parent. No, that's what I see when I go there. 8:45, there's cabs, get out, they walk the kid to the door and go. Steady stream of cabs. They take him to the door. Yeah.
Well,
Go back to Russ's question. Aren't you looking to see the parents there?
Yeah, yes, sir. We're not ready for them yet. When we get the second floor done, when the second floor becomes a community center of agencies, when WIC goes there, when Cornell Cooperative Extension goes there, when Pinnacle goes there, I'm making these up here, when this goes there and that goes there, Tony, go to class, you go upstairs. GED class goes there, that's the model.
Didn't we just put a ton of money into St. Joseph's building there where all those organizations are, and then on Main Street?
Yeah, I
Both
think
of
they
them?
did, I think they did, yeah.
Yeah,
The
St. Joseph's
Catholic
building.
Charities. That's Catholic Charities. Yeah. We have people, I have people saying, when are you going to bring that MOU to the board? I have 2 groups. I'm like, well, I'm not really ready yet. Why am I not ready? Because I got to clean those rooms out. There's so much stuff in those rooms, and they're not all ready to go, right, Earl? Those second floor rooms, we got some work to do. But once we get there, that second floor of Di Francesco will be a resource center for those families. That's the goal. And to be more, hopefully visionary, at Donovan, we're going to do something with Niagara University, some space Niagara University has. So we're just not there yet. We're just not there. We're 5 weeks into the program, but that's the vision.
All really great things that you're bringing up, though, so thank you. This is just the total budget, so you can see the total allocation and the expenses all in one snapshot there. And I realized I was remiss in pointing out and thanking Ray and Kevin, even though I don't think Kevin's around, but they also were part of our team, and Kathy Sullivan, for the past several months meeting. So again, I want to thank them for all their support. It would have been very lonely by myself, and I appreciate you all welcoming me too as part of your team.
Kevin is doing, Kevin's overseeing it. Dr. Joe is overseeing it.
Yep, Joe.
You know, I'm one to give more people more work, not less. But, so they're all doing it, and they all thank me for it. Earl? They all, Ray thanks me for the work, Maria just pats me on the back, right? And they're just thanking me for the work.
Is this a calendar year budget, a school year budget, or?
Yeah, this was what we were granted for the budget that came September 1st, but we didn't take over the full program till January. And there may be some adjustments with
This is a
this,
July
knowing that
1st
it's a unique
to
scenario.
June 30th. It follows our budget.
Okay, so we've only spent 7%.
yeah.
Okay, we're good shape.
But it follows our budget.
But this isn't a 12-month program.
Yes, it is, for some kids.
Well,
That's what I meant.
it's 11 months for some early Head Start in our model. We have a small team of staff that work 12 months, like myself, and then we have 10-month
for the
staff, which are
EHS?
Head Start, run the same as the
Is
school.
that the EHS is 11 months?
EHS is 11 month
Very good, Nick.
right now.
Catching on that kid.
You must have
I
worked,
need a
Yeah, he's
part-time
pretty-
job someplace.
you must have worked for
I
Head
just want to
Start.
say, too, you don't know this, but Mr. Villardo donated a lot of books to us this week, too, so thank you.
About
Head
baseball? The kids are reading books.
That was my dad's favorite team.
The books were banned. Those Dodger books were banned, didn't they? No, so the budget, so you all know, it's on our budget. It's July 1st to June 30th. They gave us the full amount. I'm not going to spend it just to spend it. I'm going to get on Earl to do some work.
That's right.
And we're going to increase enrollment, but we're not going to be able to take all this money. But we have it. We have it.
I just have one more question before
sure.
before I forget, I have it written down. But we talked about policies. We're doing policies. Who's gonna oversee that and make sure they're up to standard? Our attorney's gonna look at it.
I've been working with Maria on drafting personnel policies that are based on the Head Start regulations, but also consistent with district.
District and.
Yep. So we're working on drafting that, and when the whole thing is ready, we'll bring it forward. And that COVID piece is going to be one of those in there.
I didn't like doing that COVID policy separate, quite honestly, but we had to because of the deadline. Next time, and I think, Maria, your target's April? Yes. April or May, members, we're going to bring you more of the policies in a more comprehensive way.
That's a really good question, though, and it takes some time to put everything together, make sure we embed those
I
Head Start
understand
pieces.
it. I just wanted to make sure we had our attorneys,
Yes.
make sure everything was up to par.
Yeah, I'm going to rely on Maria. Go ahead, Maria.
I just wanted to say that we'll follow our regular policy process. So our policy process is always that we review the policies, we create them, word them, our attorneys do vet them, and then we put them before you to follow.
Yeah, is that going through the BOCES process that we did before, that one agency? Okay.
Yeah, we pay for that.
Technical question, might have to go to Angela. Maybe you could answer it, Mark. Is Head Start part of us now?
Yeah.
Is it a separate corporation?
No?
You're the
Do we have
oversight board.
Do we have exposure for Head Start through the school district?
Yeah, our liability insurance covers you. It's nicer,
It
right,
came,
Becky?
think of it as it's nested within the district. It's one of the,
Yeah.
all of the things you do, it's nested within the
You-
district.
You now own 181 more students, all the policies, procedures, liabilities, nicer covers us. Yeah, it's an undertaking. That's why you've got to see this report monthly.
Understood.
And that's why if there's I try to tell you issues that are going on in the district. If there's an issue at Head Start, I have to tell you that. You have to know. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. But no, yeah, yes, you are. That's why the attorney, our attorney, was so precise about taking buildings only when he was satisfied. That's why we held off on that. Yeah, and because we are liable. Am I speaking correct? We are liable, both for the buildings and the program. Right. But our insurance carriers, they put out notice with these additional functions that we have. So what we have to do is there was a notice, Stephen said about the bylaws, and I'd like to look at these bylaws.
Yeah, they're just being drafted right now.
Integrate what the Head Start is separately into our structure. And we'll know that when we can look at the bylaws that was mentioned.
Yes, and the board needs to see them anyway. So we saw what the interim agency used as bylaws to see what they were using. I also asked for some examples from other Head Starts to kind of look at the regs and everything, and you will definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. It's a good example. Yeah, then we check that out from the board, but this is the reverse, we're bringing it back in. Yeah. And I'll know the extent of it once I see the structure of the bylaws, the report to the board. But make it very clear and very clear, you are the oversight body. You are the oversight body.
We own it.
You do. You own it. I mean, we own it. I mean, you own it. Yeah.
When you see the Head Start regulations, you'll see, though, the parents, this policy council is the parent governance piece. So they also have a sense of a different type of ownership of the program with some decisions.
9 of you
just
own
so
it.
that you're
The
aware.
way
But
you own
we're going to get all the
Calthus
regs to you and everything.
and Maple and Niagara Falls High School. You own, I mean, there are 3 entities in New York State that do it this way. And Richard was on the call with me this morning. One is New York City, one is the Geneva School District, and the third is the Niagara Falls School District. It's a very unusual, it's a very atypical model.
Only 10% of Head Start programs in the country are under a school district.
I could wax philosophical and say that is not a good idea. Why we have the federal government running a stream this way, the state government running a stream that way, it doesn't make sense. In 1965, it made sense when there was nothing, but they have to marry because this first grader is our first grader. They're going to be ours. And we want to build a continuous stream of curriculum, rituals and routines, teaching, expectations, everything. So, yeah, I know you're willing to take the risk, but you own it. You own it.
About every 10 years or so, the federal government goes through this kind of conversation. Should it go under Department of Education? Should it stay under HHS? It's come back and forth in discussions over the years.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
So, you will see a line on your February agenda that's not there that said approval of the Head Start report. And Judy's going to make it 4.11 after short-term contracts. That's what you would approve on the 24th or not. Okay?
So, you're welcome. So now we're getting these kids from birth, and now we're gonna take them through to trade school and
Right.
college and everything in between.
The motto is cradle to career.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you
You
can,
think that one up?
yeah, cradle, cradle to Colucci.
Pioneers, this is really quite an undertaking, and I think it's going to be very successful.
Okay, we have three reports. The first one is let's do the one-pager first, Becky. Then we've got the Bilson report. I'm going to call it that because I like it.
Bring the guitar.
No. We learned something when we did it. So we've got after Becky does the budget, then we have the Bilson report. And then Earl is going to.
Is he gonna sing?
No, Earl's going to not sing. He's going to talk about energy. The Bilson report. I like it. Go ahead, Beck.
Okay, good evening, and I just want to present the updated one-page budget. The very few items have changed in the past 2 weeks. What has changed is shaded for you to quickly take notice of. The first thing is just a difference in the layout of how we were presenting the revenue and the reserves that were used in the prior year and its effect on the current, our projected revenue. Last year we had baseline revenues of $152,607,179. We allocated $541,000 of reserves to bring us to a total revenue of $153,148,179. So as you know, we start with the current year's revenue on this one-page sheet, and we make additions and subtractions to it to show you where we anticipate being for 22-23. We didn't show it, in black and white last time, but that $541,000 that was allocated last year is being deducted from the starting revenue. And then down below, we're allocating $555,000 of the reserve toward next year's budget. So the total remains the same. The formula, I just changed the formula so you could actually see the $541,000 being subtracted out and the $555,000 replacing it in this year's budget. I didn't want you to think that it was compounded. Because, yeah.
So let's talk about that side and the changes. If you'd scroll back up, Ray. The things that could change here. Foundation aid, that's what the governor promised us. The legislature could give us more, could keep it the same. I've never seen them make it lower. I've never seen that happen. But that 8.4 could actually go up. I'm not thinking it will, but it could. The legislator now weighs in on the governor's budget. It could. Excess cost aids just aren't in, right, Beck?
Well, the original estimate was there, but the aid runs are changing all the time, and we haven't seen any movement yet, no.
And charter school is not in yet. Why don't you go to the appropriations side, and then we'll show them a couple of things that we made. One based on some strong conversation from the board.
Okay, well, first, the shaded item is the BOCES line. We had an initial meeting with Erie One BOCES, and they handle mostly our technology. And we were estimating an increase of like over $2 million. Now we believe that increase is going to be more in line of just about $1.89 million.
So that went down a little bit. But we did put something up.
Yes, and what we did is take that slight reduction to the BOCES budget and moved it to increase utilities a little bit more based on the conversation
Or the
that we had at the
utililities.
last meeting.
The utilities.
Pardon?
Nothing, utilities, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, so based on a conversation from this, not pointing at Mike, but we had a little bit of a conversation about, what is it, natural gas, or what is it?
Natural gas, how it affects our NIPA revenues for electrical power.
So we're worried, some board members correctly, and one guy made a good argument to increase that line. So we did pick that line up And we'll keep watching. We might have to bump it more. But we did add to be a little bit more comfortable, not to pad it, but to be a little more comfortable based on a conversation you had here at the board about natural.
Well, I'm sorry.
I know.
It was about the air conditioning, if you remember. The 4 additional buildings that now have.
My apologies. If you remember, I believe it was early last spring when systems were just coming online. I had put in an increase, and I was asked to increase it further for electrical for the 4 buildings where we're now providing 100% air conditioning for the buildings, 79th, Hyde Park, Maple, and GJ Mann, which prior to the capital project did not have air conditioning.
So we added more to the utilities line.
Yes, so we added more to the utilities line for that,
can
and
I
then
say?
also, you know, as
What can I
was
say?
pointed out,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, that's all right.
As was pointed out, we also are speculating for a little bit more of an increase on natural gas throughout the rest of the year.
That still may not be enough, but we have until April. We have longer than that, but we'll keep an eye on that.
With your permission, Superintendent. Earl, is it time to look at putting any solar panels on our buildings? We got all those roofs up there. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
everybody's playing baseball.
Yeah, we could look at that. It's not out of the question. It's a matter of, you know, just putting in any project like that would have to be an SED-approved project, but we could look into it. There are companies that do it.
I mean, we remember when we pedaled off our
Yeah.
chimneys for the AT&T, TT&T, whatever the hell we did.
Yeah.
Well, I can't understand why, with all the roof space we have and all these panels going up all over, we couldn't cut it. I mean, we don't pay for electricity. I know that, Russ. You're gonna. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that next slide, at the next slide. The bottom line is, we listened, we bumped it up. The other bottom line.
Jimmy, Mark, let me just
Go ahead.
interrupt.
Yeah, go
It is a fact, though, that installing these solar panels do not really save on the bottom line. It just is more,
Conducive to
no, it's beneficial to, more environmentally friendly.
That's it.
I know somebody who has them on their house.
Yeah. And he must have researched it, too.
A little bit.
Are those safe from a health perspective? I mean,
Solar panels?
I don't know much about, I'm just asking. I mean,
Yes.
anytime you're going to put something in your children, I'm just wondering if,
Yes,
obviously, there's
they're safe. One of the, you know, there's some concerns from the fire department regarding them, especially on home installation for if they have to try to get through a roof to, you know, put down a fire, they can impede it there. As far as like environmental concerns, you know, when they need to be disposed of one day, that's one of the things you hear a lot about is, just like with electric cars, what are we going to do with these batteries when they're bad? You see some of that, but as far as there's no radiation or anything crazy like that from them, you know, and I have to speak plainly, as a facilities director as well as an energy guy, I'm torn. While it makes sense, as Mr. Consemi is pointing out, to potentially put solar panels on our roof, Mr. Capizzi is correct that there's only a limited amount of return because all you're really offsetting is your energy usage, not necessarily your demand charges and your wheeling charges. All that being said, as a facilities director, dealing with what we're dealing with right now throughout the district, an unprecedented melt of snow and what that does to flat roofs, you find every weakness. And if you've got solar panel systems up there, now you're removing those to get to those weaknesses to repair that damage that could be happening to a building. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration.
Oh, Earl, didn't we just replace 90% of all the roofs in our buildings?
No, sir.
but what he's saying, it would impede you. It would put an obstacle in front of us if anything ever happened the benefits might not outweigh that cost
Well,
if we
also,
ever
you
do
have to
it.
penetrate the roof to anchor them.
Well, you also have an additional weight load on the roof. The structurally wise, it might not be able to hold up.
May I chime in? One of our buildings at the yard, they put solar panels up during the Paul Deister regime. Also, what happened was, while they did it, they damaged a brand-new roof. So now, when we had a leak in a brand-new, that should have been a 20-year roof, now the problem is, whatever they used, cutting oils, any of that stuff, it burned the membrane off the roof and voided the warranty. So we have to watch that too, because if it voids the warranty on these brand-new beautiful roofs we just put on in the last 5 years, 4 years.
Excellent points.
Ladies and gentlemen, a clinic on solar roofing. Ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience, you will not find that in any other school
Sorry
district,
about that,
Becky.
folks.
Just remember one last point here. What are you approving on, I'm going to ask you to approve it on April 7th, by the way. What are you approving as of today? 164, 372, 347. That's all that matters. All that stuff above the line, we have ability to move, strengthen, what have you. There is something below the line that Becky needs to talk about.
I think we had a question.
Oh, sorry, Russ.
Yeah, I would ask for a consideration, not an answer now, maybe talk about it. This is very confusing.
Oh,
Now,
I'm
I'll show you
sorry.
where it's confusing to me.
Okay.
In the Niagara Gazette, it was confusing in the Gazette. The Niagara Gazette said there was no budget gap. There was a budget gap because we use reserves.
Well, there would be a gap if we were not allocating that $555,000.
Point
correct?
taken,
You're
right.
right.
But see, where I'm getting at, the way I would like to see this for your consideration, obviously it's your decision, is the budget here versus your expenses, a gap, and then the reserves to fill the gap.
Okay.
Because
We can absolutely
somebody looking at
change
this, glancing over this, would never pick up that we're using reserves to balance this budget.
that. Okay.
Just for your consideration, that's
No,
all I
that-
would.
it's a very good
No,
point.
you're right.
It's a
You're
very good
right.
point.
I wrote that incorrectly. I mean, I didn't mean to mislead
no,
anybody.
no.
But you're right. It was a reserve amount used to balance the gap of 555.
I'm not against using it, I
No.
just think.
No, I know. Yeah.
Somebody glancing at it and say, well, they got all kinds of money. Well, we're $1 million short. We use reserves that we built up over the years.
It's all in the presentation, the way it is. We did use a one-shot $555,000 debt service reserve to make this work. We did. We did.
Yep. And I can change
I
that
got
and
excited
get a
because
It's
draft
just your
to the
consideration,
superintendent.
if you guys get, if it's okay.
Yeah.
But this
If
could
it's not,
change
then-
again if the state aid increases, so we might not have a gap.
It could. It could. It
So we
could.
don't know till the end.
It's why it's a fluid work in progress. But Russ, I do
Good job,
respect your
Becky.
point. I do respect your point, that we did draw from reserve. It's really bad. You know what? I want to get a cleaning press for my house now. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm starting to think like him. It's really bugging me. Oh, okay. If my office gets messed up and really dirty, not that bad, Clara, no. Then you know he's completely coerced. Just turn me around. You know, we found a couple of Head Start kids in Russ's office. The enrollment was down, and I said, get that. So they went under the papers he's got piled up. There were three kids. It was okay. They were all healthy and good. I'm kidding. If anybody's listening, I'm kidding. I pick on him because his office gives me nervous energy. Rob?
Just real quick, going to Russ's point about using the reserve to balance the budget, basically. I would just caution us. I mean, look, you're the experts in my short tenure on the board, but anytime you do stuff like that, in my experience, it's a slippery slope, especially as costs continue to increase. Once you do dip into that, you tend to end up chasing your tail in future years. So I would just be a little concerned about having to use reserves now, and then next year, we have to use another 500,000. Then next thing you know, it adds up after 10 years, and it's a lot of money.
Well, Rob, that was one of the things with the additional staff.
Yeah.
And what's the benefit? Because it was 8 million last year, it's 8 million next year. Even though we're absorbing some in the general fund, it's still 16 million over 2 years.
No, you're right, and you're starting to sound like him. That's what's making me nervous.
Well, I mean, that's an honor.
Yeah, you are correct. I do respect that you are. That's why we're bringing those grant people back. If we could bring more back, I know Julie and Becky would bring more back so that that slope or cliff doesn't get hit so bad. So I do respect the point. Yeah, and you're right, and you're right about we did use a reserve. We did. So a lot of it is in the presentation. I hope you understand what we're doing here, though. And it's a good thing. And it's, as Nick was alluding to, it's a good thing, but we have to be careful. This is not going to last forever. This is, the day of infamy could be September 30th, 2023. Isn't that the day? That's the day, September. So as much as we can get back in here now, the only thing I want to say, and then I want to move on below the red line. That's why, if anybody says, why did you increase the budget $11 million? We increased the budget $11 million because we had to take grant people back into the general fund and use the general fund money. Now, so we couldn't wait to the end and not have any room for anybody. We had to slowly bring them back because these are not one-shots that we're bringing back. These are people and programs and things. These are not one-shots we're bringing back. We're bringing back people. So we got to be careful. I get it. You're right. We got to be careful. Thank you. Below the line, Beck.
Below the line, the change is in the amount we are allowed to increase our tax levy. It is now at 1.25 million. And the difference being they have until February 15th to post the growth factor, the allowable growth factor. And this year, because the CPI exceeded 2% for a full 12 months, the growth factor came in on February 3rd at 2%. So we were allowed to change our calculation. And what else changed to bring it to that amount is that our stewardship project, our building aid was finalized, so we had a more concrete number of what the district share, the local share of that debt payment would be. And those two changes brought us in another $1 million, basically, if you were to choose to raise the tax levy.
So let me see if I got it, because I'm the least financial savvy person. We can go up to 4.8% raise in the cap.
Correct.
Without needing a supermajority. I'm not saying do it. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. You could raise the tax levy 4.8% without going to a supermajority. You still get 1.2. That's what you get by raising it to the full amount.
Correct.
So if you chose to go to the limit and raise taxes 4.8%, you would get $1.259 million. I don't think you should. Maybe you think you should. I wouldn't recommend that. I'm not going to recommend that to you, but that's what you could get. We don't need to, but that's what you could get. Pardon me? I don't think we need it yet. No, we don't need it now. I don't think, but maybe you do.
The city continues to raise there and the reassessment comes in.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, Mr. Consenti.
Assessment won't affect us.
Yeah,
No,
do you
it
mind if we
doesn't.
talk about that?
No.
Because this is a question that has come up from citizens in preparation for the budget vote on May 18th. I want to make sure that the reassessment won't change our $25 million tax levy.
No.
All that'll change is who's paying the $25 million tax levy. So we'll get $25,800,000 or whatever we get, right, from the tax levy. If they're reassessed, and it won't get done before our budget, it would just mean he'd pay more, you'd pay less. So that's the impact on the school budget. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Our levy stays the same. Once you choose the levy, that's the amount we will collect, whether it's spread out amongst $20 billion in property assessments or $30 billion in property assessments, we will still collect the
That's it. But it's a common
25,088,989.
question, Mr. Kazemi, a very common question I'm getting from taxpayers that actually don't have children in school. That's a common question. Well, how's reassessment going to affect my, I'm going to pay more to the school? The school's rising. No, we're not. The reassessment really doesn't come from the school district.
I think the answer is, first of all, it depends what they do at homestead, non-homestead. That's an issue too. But I think the answer is, we will get the same amount of money.
Right.
But I can't tell you your taxes won't change.
Oh, no,
And then-
but that's
I'm
year
just
to
making-
year.
Yeah, that's the answer.
And the answer is, depending on, like, Cuba Island will get whacked. No question.
Well, I mean.
No,
the-
no, no, the
Well,
reason
that's
I
a
say,
levy,
the
Right,
reason I'm
it
saying
depends on
Cuba
the
Island.
total assessed values of, in
No,
the
the reason
city,
is
yeah.
because I studied all this for the business community. The last assessment stopped at 56th Street. They stopped it, half the city got done and the other half didn't. So the LaSalle area is behind already. So when it comes back up, they're gonna get whacked, there's no doubt about it. In general. But we're not getting any more money, they need to know that. It's not us.
But to
And the
as,
reason we're doing it is the city's at it's approaching its taxing limit, and they cannot raise taxes anymore. So that's why they're reassessing in order to free them up, taxable monies.
Nick's beautiful house will pay more. I'm kidding. Can you slide, Ray, because I have to show the board, especially Mr. Capizzi, this, because I don't know if you've seen it. See this box? This is, right. Okay, and I'm not preaching at you, I just want you to know why it's here. Because the next time you see this budget, Becky and Julie will change numbers internal. But this, I would call, this is the program box. And let me give you a for instance. A couple of weeks, Rick has been making some presentations every week. He'll make another one on the 24th. He's formulating them now. He may say, and I know what you're going to say, he may say, I need another reading recovery teacher. I need, the math presentation, I want 3 more math teachers. Earl, is on me constantly for this outdoor lift, which I think is a good idea, an outdoor lift. Let's see, he raises his finger. No, we can't get it. Let me just pretend, Jimmy, for a second. Earl wants that outdoor lift. Something Ray has for technology doesn't fall. I'll give you one, and I'll make a political statement. Our proc system, our proc swipe thing, it is being held together, not his fault, by chewing gum. We're trying to use our smart schools money for that. But you know that money that Earl Bass once said, wasn't I on the board when we first talked about this? Yeah, but I want to use the smart schools money for that. Okay, that pot will have 2.8 million left. I don't know if I can wait that long to get it approved. I just don't know. The proc system is a safety system, and it's on its last legs. We may not make it to wait a year for him to get it passed. I might say that I have to put $218,000 in this box so he can get a new server or whatever he needs. We already got prices for it. All I want to say is we're going to start filling this box mainly with Rick, Ray, and Earl to show you some of the things that we need to improve student achievement. And when we do that, there is only one place to go. Well, 2 places. Mr. Villardo's right. The legislator could put more money in there, or we could go into one of these reserve buckets. And you're going to have to see how comfortable you are or not. Does that make sense? Sure. Mike, does that make sense? You'll have to value what Rick, Earl, and Ray put in this box. I mean, we'll all do it. It's a real big box. Have you ever seen Earl? And Rick? Rick actually is worse than Earl. Yeah, there's a lot of lines, so Rick will fill them. So that's a caution too. But it goes back to Rob Bilson's point. It goes back to his point. The more we fill that box, the more we could have problems, down the line. Not a lift, but But I might want more reading, I'm making this up. I might want more reading recovery. I might want math in every school, which I think we need, by the way. So, but it's the point that you guys are making. It comes at a short-term and long-term cost. So I just want to lay that out as an anticipatory set, that on the 24th, I want you to see what these leaders think would be worth it.
Absolutely.
Okay? Is that good? All right, Julie. Here you go on your maiden Billson report.
What the heck is this all?
No, you'll see it. It's easy. I just hope we did what he
You gonna
wanted.
get the guitar and sing?
No, I don't think, not yet. April he is.
Yeah, that's for budget transfer number 9.
Budget transfer number 9 is almost here.
Oh, this is a breakdown.
Well, I think, oh, Julie, let's not Julie, she's the treasurer now. She can explain it.
So what we compiled, and is in front of you that Becky just handed out, is an expense comparison report. So for the general fund for the past 6 years. So the first 4 columns are the actual expenditures for our last 4 fiscal years. The 5th column is the adjusted budget as of today for the current fiscal year we're in, 21-22. And then the last column is the proposed budget as of this time for next year's budget, which Becky just presented on the one-pager. So we broke it down into 9 categories of expenses, and the shaded percentages, those are the year-over-year change in the expense categories. So we will start with salaries, which is the largest expense in the general fund. You can see it usually represents about 40% of each year's budget. Generally, we expect to see salaries increase about 2% a year. However, you can notice that in this year, the 21-22 adjusted budget, salaries decreased 7%. That is because of the one-shot funding, mainly from the Carissa revenue that we received. So we received $13.4 million. This current year, we shifted $8.5 million of those salaries to that one-time funding. In next year's budget, we're bringing half of that back, and then, in the 23-24 budget, we'll have to bring back the remaining. So that's why you'll see an increase of 12% in the salary line to next year's budget. The next expense categories is benefits. So on average, this represents about 22% of the budget for any current year. This includes all of the retirement contributions, health insurance, payroll taxes, workers' comp. And overall, you can see it's really kind of remained consistent at 1% to 2% per year. The reason it increased to 4% this year is with all of these new hires and the additional funding, the general fund still takes on the majority of those benefits. So even though the salaries are in the special aid fund or through grants, the general fund still absorbs the benefits mainly. And next year, we are budgeting for increase in the medical rates as well as the retirement contribution rates. The next line is terminal leave and vacation buyback. And we included this just to show this is one of our more unpredictable and volatile expense lines just because it's based on retirements, which can be difficult to predict year over year. So you can see that really 1 year it jumped up 61%, another year decreased 15%. This current year we have budgeted $1.9 million. We believe that's sufficient, but we still want to increase the budget next year. We recommended a $150,000 increase just because it is so difficult to predict in that area. Transportation, this represents the cost for our 2 bus contractors.
Right.
So you can see that generally we would expect this to increase by the CPI year over year, but you can see in 2019-2020 it decreased 30%, and that's a result of the pandemic. Once schools, were shut down in March that year, we did not pay for contract transportation for April, May, or June. Then you can see that jumped back up 2021 as hybrid learning returned, so we had that increase of 25%. This year, we budgeted for a full year of, 5 days a week plus full capacity with the buses. And next year, you'll see that there's a 4% increase, and that's based on the CPI. Tuitions, this represents all of our special private education placements, as well as charter school and foster tuitions. Generally, these increase about 5% a year. We were conservative for this budget year, 21-22, increased it 10%, because last year the rates actually remained flat. So we're kind of anticipating that it'll increase, as well as next year, we're anticipating about a 10% increase as well. The utilities, you can see that generally utilities were increasing about 1% a year. However, this budget year, 21-22, like Earl mentioned, we increased the budget $250,000 as a result of the air conditioning usage for the schools. And then, as we just talked about, we're recommending increasing it another $500,000 for next year for that line. Outside services and supplies, this is really all of our contractual agreements along with any textbooks, furniture purchases, equipment purchases. In 18-19, you'll see that there was an increase of about 10%. That was the year that we expanded, we added additional resource officers to the schools. So that was a big jump there. And then really that's leveled off throughout the years. In this budget year, we did increase the budget for certain one-time purchases, musical instruments, some additional equipment. We had budgeted for the radios, as well as the Evolve is in the current year. Yeah.
Is transportation a fixed cost, or is it billed out per pickup? And the reason why I'm asking, with the shortage of these drivers, I mean, are we prepaying a year and ahead? I mean, 'cause I think Mark made the comment earlier, we go into the year with 90 bus drivers, and we're currently at 44 and dropping. So
It would be nice to have that many we're dropping.
So I guess I'm asking if this is a fixed cost, this is something we could save a big bundle on.
So it's different for each of our contract providers. Coach Lines, who does all of our in-district busing, is a fixed cost. For student who does all our out-of-district, that's based on usage, so we pay per bus. So we'll...
Story for another day, but sorry to interrupt. We should be having a conversation about recovering some of those funds. I mean, I've already spoke my piece on that.
And you spoke it well and thoughtfully, and I don't disagree with you. And Julie, I think you all picked up on it. The one provider, the $5 million provider in city, is a fixed cost. It's a fixed rate. It's a fixed cost.
Based on students, though, right? Based on students.
Based on the contract, and it rolls forward with the CPI.
Based on the 1972.
Okay, so in other words,
Yeah.
if we add 500 students, we pay the same? If we reduce 500 students, we pay the same? Semi-variable cost?
No, the contract originally, as Mr. Laurie said, they originated in the 70s and the 80s. What I could see from one of the original contracts, it was originally based on number of buses, and then it has just been carried forward every year by the CPI. Their total number of buses right now, I think we just got a number today that they have 71. The original contract was based on 85. So that doesn't mean they have drivers for 71 buses.
It doesn't mean 71 buses are taking kids anywhere. I think that's your point.
Well, I mean, look, here's...
And you know what, Rob? I completely agree with you.
And by the way, it doesn't matter, the company doesn't matter, the people, it's not relevant to the conversation, it's the situation. And if you're paying a contract and they don't, and they've built in their cost to have, as an example, we had this conversation when they were here presenting. If you're a business and you're building the cost for your contract or bid, whatever, however the process works, I need 60 drivers, and we've consistently had 20 drivers, they're making a lot of revenue to do nothing. And we're paying $500,000+ out of a reserve I just think that we always need to be good partners. We are in a pandemic. I completely understand that. However, there has to be a point where we have a conversation and say, this isn't fair, and you're putting us in a bad situation. And I don't know that you're really in a bad situation, to be quite honest with you.
Very artfully and eloquently said, and you're totally right.
Rob, I would be more concerned with what they said earlier with these numbers being based on 1970 and 1980. Back then, the CPI was completely doctored and guttered after the 1980s inflation. And at today's number, that would be about 30%, where today's CPI came out on 7.5%. So we're probably losing 20% just based on an old school way of doing things. Would you agree?
Well, now educate me on that. This is where I would need education.
Well, no, let me go back a little bit.
Quick question first.
Sure, of course.
Just when it comes to that, I would assume that's across the state. Is
The
it?
CPI?
Yeah.
We follow the South, there's different formula.
But it's fair.
Yes.
It's fair and equitable across all
Yes.
districts that
Yes,
have to
sir.
use that calculation.
Yes, sir. You're correct, sir. You are correct, sir.
Let me, if I could just add into this. The reason it goes up CPI, or can go up to CPI, because then you can extend the contract versus renegotiate the
Without putting it out
contract.
to bid.
And I'll tell you what, I know this sounds like it's gone up 30% and 40%. There was a local school district that got smart and put it out to bid. Their bid doubled.
No, it happened to us.
Yeah, it'll double. Because what we see is a 30% increase. The minimum wage raise costs 100% in 5 years. So you don't want to put this contract out to bid, trust me. Because what happens, nobody bids it. There's only one bidder. No, but what I'm trying to say is the number you're paying is realistic. Because if you went to bid, your contract will double or go up $5 million. It's nowhere near the 30% it's traveled over the past 20 years. That's my point.
And just one additional item for myself, because I mentioned this before, I just want to make sure I'm clear. My mindset isn't, let's go to the table and tear apart a contract that we currently have. It's, we've been good partners in business, and you've been a good provider. We're in a situation where maybe we'd like to have a conversation about some accommodations, because the future's still going to look bright for both sides. But right now, it's not looking that great for one side of the fence.
I completely understand what you're saying. And again, I'm not trying to dismiss your comment. I understand. We need to have further conversation on that topic. I completely understand. Russ is correct. It's a weird bidding thing with bus companies. It's weird. Why is it 72? Because we only had to pay the CPI. During good times, that was a great deal. During good times, that was a great deal. The CPI was 1.4%. Great. Now it's a different story. Plus, there's different factors at work at the company. So it's a complex conversation. You're right. It's a strategy conversation. I do know that other company, First Student, when we put it out to bid, we only received one bid back, and it went up 30%.
I would have
Remember?
to look, but it's at least that.
It was, yeah.
30 or 40%. You're in the wrong. If you could find drivers, you're in the wrong business. Are you satisfied with that line at least in the conversation?
Oh, yeah. It brought up a topic of conversation that I think is still an important one to talk about. I mean, is there any opportunity when it comes to things like this for us to move funds around between years? As an example, if we have a contract that says our estimated budget of $9.2 million, say we land on $9.2 million, is there a way that we could have conversations? I don't know if this is legal, I'm asking. It's $7 million this year, and we're going to be able to receive an accommodation of $1 million, but we'll make up the $1 million accommodation because it was a contractual agreement. Over the course of the next 3 years, we'll add, over 4 years, we'll add $250,000 per year to be good partners from a contractual standpoint. Like, can you move money around like that or no? I'm just curious.
On the contract?
Well, I don't know how it works. I'm asking.
I'm not sure you can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you can. Because of the next year's reimbursement
Yeah.
back
How do we pay them?
in bags of coins.
Bitcoin? They get paid in Bitcoin? No.
Use your microphone. Mike. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It was. We stopped paying. We didn't pay. I think
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Julie alluded to that. We didn't pay, and some states were going to pay. And remember, we were worried legally, and you're telling me don't say too much. We never paid, and I think it's over with. I think it's over with too. Mr. Bilson, except for that last part about moving money, I am completely in agreement with what you're saying.
Well, and I don't blame you for not co-signing that one because I don't even know if that's a thing. I was just asking.
Yeah, that one I don't know.
Yeah, one more
I'll have
question.
to have Maria defend me on that.
One more question. This will be quick. I don't need like an elaborate response, but just how do they get paid? Is it a lump sum payment? Do they get paid? How does that process work?
So Coach Lions, they bill us twice a month, every other week for the prior 2 weeks. So after the prior 2 weeks, for student, they invoice us monthly.
One last thing for his complete edification. Talk about fuel.
Like the fuel report?
Yep.
Yep. So Coach Lions also submits a fuel report to us quarterly. We just received it today. And really what it is it goes through, because those are our, we pay for the fuel that's installed, that's held at their bus garage. And so we reconcile that, and then they report to us how much we used versus their personal use, and then we invoice them for that, for their personal use, and they pay us back.
Is the pump working now and the meter working? It's only been about 8 months.
Hang on, Jimmy. I'm going to
They
answer
cut us
that.
a check.
Two things, and one, Mr. Consemi had a question, I'll answer that one. We use based on consumption.
Yes.
So, talking about the number of buses versus the total package, we do save, when there's only 8 buses on the road, on fuel. Right, on fuel we do. Also, Earl's men fill up, we use that service for our gas. Yes, sir. So it's buses used plus our tractors, whatever. To your point, Mr. Consemi, because this was an audit findings 5 years ago. This whole thing was an audit finding. Just so you know, it was an audit finding, and that whole fuel issue was an audit finding. So we put a cap in place. We've been following the cap. Mr. Consemi asked if their fuel pump has been fixed. It is not yet, because their fuel pump has a camera on it. We check the dipstick. It's got a recording. Anybody who uses it has its own private PIN number, so we're watching all that. That was all part of the audit. The answer to your question directly is no, it's not fixed, and I call every week, and I can show you my phone calls. I'll tell them that you want this fixed by the end of next week.
Are we buying fuel somewhere else?
Yes.
Are we paying the tax?
We're getting fuel from the Star Gas Mart. Star by the, are we paying the tax?
Sure we are.
I don't know.
Is the
We would have to look. I don't know.
I'm not going to lie to you and
It
say
isn't
we're not.
recoverable.
I don't know. I'll have to look. We'll have to look.
Yeah, we have to look at that.
Well, we're talking, I'm not trying to be stupid, but it's 50 cents a gallon anyway.
I think
And
Earl
that's one
might,
thing the claims auditor would look at, so I'm assuming no, because she will look to see if there was sales tax on the invoice, she would immediately pull it off.
Okay, I'm just
But,
curious.
yeah, I mean,
But
we'll
Jimmy
double
makes a
check,
good
but-
point.
But we, you know,
Jimmy makes a good point. We shouldn't be doing that.
No. How long has it been broke?
It's been broke for 7 months.
What's the matter with it?
They needed a part, the part came in, and now they need they need a control board. A control panel, or?
Yeah.
A control panel, and an electrician. We don't know any electricians.
I did ours, I'll hook that thing up.
Request.
I just think this is insane, because we've fought this before with them. We went through all the precautions so this wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And here it's happening, and nobody wants to talk about it.
You have my word, Mr. Consemi, that I will call tomorrow and give you a report. Honestly, I know your frustration. I feel it too, because you lived through that audit. I will do it tomorrow. And we will also get the question on, can you speak to our auditor about the sales tax, please?
thank you for entertaining my questions about transportation, and thanks for putting this report
No.
together, I appreciate it.
Is this kind of what you're looking for?
This is exactly what I'm looking for. I think this is great. I'll let you finish, but I think it's helpful.
One request on that, Julie, on the bottom line, could you add the percentage there,
oh, yeah,
please?
of course, yes.
Thank you.
So we were on outside services and supplies, but I think we were okay to move to BOCES services. And so BOCES services, this represents what we pay to BOCES for all of our services, and then also the special education placements we have through them. You can see that there was a 36% increase in this budget year, 21-22, and that is because of the purchases of all of the new laptops that Ray made in the beginning of the year.
We purchased new teacher laptops and new 7 through 12 laptops.
So that's,
Isn't just the software that goes in?
Yes.
yes,
We
and
lease.
then purchasing through BOCES
These are
generates
leased
aid
purchases through BOCES.
in the subsequent.
You know, you might want to put a footnote on those big changes, like, you know, that 36% new computers purchased.
Right.
Footnote A.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah, because someday we're going to, what the heck was that about?
Right, what was that?
Yeah, when you look back, you won't know.
What was that?
Yeah.
Was that more dry cleaning we paid for? Well, I don't know, was it a pandemic? Did we have a lot of band uniforms to wash? What was it? Go ahead, Julie, go ahead.
Toilet seat, yeah, I know.
Go ahead,
And the
go.
last one is debt service, and this just represents the cost of our bonds for all of our former capital projects. You can see that in 2021, it increased. That's phase 1 of stewardship being completed. This year, 21-22, we completed phase 2 of stewardship, and then next year, it goes down as we are paying off some older debt. So, any other questions?
Is our A bonded in effect now?
Yes, it is.
A plus or A?
It's still A. We haven't made the call yet. And here's what, I believe we have a strategy. Huh?
What do we do all that?
Our bond rating is A, and we're gonna call, but we were gonna wait to call because,
We were waiting until sort of this time of year, maybe in March, so that we can, they always ask for what's your projected amounts for the current year, 21-22, so we'll have a good handle on what our surplus will be, and then also we'll be able to
That's
show
why.
them.
You can come in the foxhole with me anytime.
she's right, because you know me, I'm like, call them up, I want an A plus, call them up, I want an A plus, right?
Yeah, and I
Call 'em
think
up.
rating will be favorable to us, so.
So we're going to A plus next. We're on our way. But they'll ask us what our expenditures are for next year, what will our reserves look like. I'm like, call them now. I want to get an A plus in there. I mean, right? They have to temper me on that. Thanks, Julie. Now, ladies and gentlemen, quite possibly, you are in for one of the most exciting, spellbinding, edge of your seat reports in the history of school board presentations. It's all about energy.
Wow, that's going to be hard to live up to. Anyways, so what I've been asked to present to you guys tonight is a little bit of a synopsis on our NIPA agreement. There's a common understanding out there that we get our power for free, okay? We don't necessarily get our power for free. We do get our power at a very reduced rate. So, for 15 years since the NIPA relicensing, thanks to your previous colleague, let's call him, Mr. Mark Zito, with his work on the relicensing, as well as some crackerjack negotiations as part of the deal from Mr. Angelo Massaro.
Oh, jeez.
That has benefited. That has benefited the district in just under 15 years to the order of, in the gray column at the bottom, $7.6 million.
Here comes a raise.
So, I'm happy to break it down for you any way you would like. What you see in the very far right column is our actual checks or charges that we get. So the way the deal works is all of our energy is sold through the city. Okay, the city is like the municipal agent to the what's called the New York State Independent Operators. Okay, they're the people that are in charge of the entire grid for New York State. So they are the holder. Okay, but they do not reconcile the monies. All they are is a pass-through. It's because of the PSC, Public Service Commission, and how this is all regulated. It has to be through a municipality. Okay. So, what you see, that $539,918 is the actual revenue that we've received. The actual revenue that we've received from our NIPA agreement. What you see with the 7.1 in the third column is the value of the electricity that has been part of this program. So what you're looking at is $7.6 million of avoided costs by the school district due to the NIPA relicensing agreement. Do you follow me? Meaning if we had to buy that power, it would have cost us $7.1 million, and we would not have gotten to $539,000 in revenue over the 15 years. Okay? All that being said, this is a little bit of what you might call a hedge against fuel prices, believe it or not. Because as natural gas prices increase, we get hit for our natural gas consumption, of course. But with this, we get more revenue. If you look back to, like, say, 2009, you'll see our revenue was $286,000. Natural gas prices were quite high at that time due to, you may remember, Hurricane Katrina. So while we were paying for it in natural gas for our own consumption for heat, it was offset some by the increased cost of natural gas and what it costs for the electricity producers to use it, which means when we sell it, we get more money for our electricity that we do not use. So, what this all really means, it actually pays for us to conserve as best as we can. Yes, sir?
Just a quick question. Like, a NIPA invoice column, is that a credit or is that a charge?
NIPA invoice column, the very far right column.
No, third column above the, third from the right.
NIPA invoice.
NIPA invoice, yes.
Yes.
Is that
Okay.
a credit?
That is actually a credit, yes.
Okay, a little confusion. On the net income credit or charge, we're doing the opposite. You follow me? We're usually a credit showed in parentheses.
Right,
So
exactly.
maybe I would,
Yeah,
I might consider changing that.
we could look at it that way.
Yep.
This,
I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Counting
Yeah.
the credits
Parentheses
always,
looks like a deduct. or
well,
a
correct,
loss.
it's a credit. It's,
Yeah.
I know what he's saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
first glances, I looked at that as,
Yeah.
I looked at that as we paid that money.
We lost 3.6
Yeah.
million.
Well, no, the 5.39, I looked at as a bill.
Right.
Actually.
Okay.
I follow
Just-
you.
Just a typo.
He's new here.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Any other questions? So, what's 3 million amongst friends? Yeah.
Just one quick one, Earl. Do you have a projection on KWH, what we're gonna go up for the air conditioning, maybe 10%, 15%?
Of our overall?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you see in the second column after, the years with the total is our actual consumption per year of electricity. You'll see in 2020 it was at 8.6 million kWh. Okay? That's partially because, as you remember, we were closed down quite a bit. So we were able to, obviously we weren't heating things to their full capacity or lighting buildings to their full capacity. That being said, I'm guessing that 10.1 number you see in 2021,
12?
it's going to be about 12.5.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be about 12.5. 2007, I'm sorry. It hadn't, we did not, yes, thank you, Mr. Velardo. Appreciate it.
Head Start and energy. Good? Good? You asked for this, Mr. Consemi, good? Mike? Earl, you did it
Thank you.
in
Have a
less
good
than
night.
4 hours. Last agenda item we have today, Ray and Judy and Maria. I'd like to review the agenda for February 24th, a day that will live in infamy. For many reasons, Rob. Many reasons. It is. But did I say that today was Rick Carella's birthday? Yeah. Did I mention that he's older than me? Okay. And as I look around the room, with the exception of Angelo, he may be Rick might be the oldest person here. Nah, no. All right. Here we go. Here we go. We're going to have, I'd like Rick and Ms. Rotella Zafuto present to you the multi-systemic team and the best program results. This is part of our tiered approach to social emotional learning. Becky and Julie will do their show. We'll go through the agenda. I'd like to also comment that on that date, we will have an audit committee for audit committee members. The 24th is a 4 p.m. audit committee. The agenda will go through the internal claims report to look at the budget. We'll share with the audit members the budget you're seeing. And then Bonadeo has done an audit for us. They audited Ray's department. They audited information services. Why? Yesterday I read Williamsville got hit with a cyber attack. So they did a couple of penetration phishing tests on ours. They did find weaknesses. I'm not gonna. You'll hear about them on the 24th. But they did find a few weaknesses in our information services protocols, which is what we paid them for. It's no affront to Ray. Ray has been charged with writing a CAP, or a corrective action, for the findings that they had. Becky, do we have to send an internal report to the state?
We do. We submit the CAP in the portal.
Okay. Do we do a resolution for that? We won't have the resolution for you, but Ray will show you the findings from our IS audit. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we got audited. We did our own, we paid Bonadeo to audit us. So that's the agenda for that meeting. We'll have our topics. Go ahead, Ray, and scroll. There are no bids. Mr. Bilson is 2 reports away from having to perform budget transfer number 9. It's budget transfer number 7. Ms. Massaro has short-term contracts. And did you have an additional sheet? Would you mind? And then I'll go through. Beautiful job on the. She'll give you this updated grid, but if you don't mind, we can go through them. This is the updated short-term contract grid. I'll go through them with you now. Kingdom Transportation is a leadership program that Ms. Jones asked to bring to the students at high school, paid for out of my brother's keeper. Playworks, Ms. Tompkins is using this at Abbott as part of our sister schools. This is the second payment of it. Number 4 Number 3, 4, and 5 are all paid for and suggested by the Teacher Resource Center. These are Teacher Resource Center courses, Rick?
Yes, or some might be presentations for the next conference day.
Their presentations, or we have a conference day on Friday, March 11th. So we're trying to set up all of our presenters and their payments. 3, 4, and 5 come out of the Teacher Resource Center budget. And 6. Number 7 is a mentoring program with the famous lounge singer, Marcia McWilson. She does do a good job with our kids. She's going to Kelfis and Niagara Street. She is a lovely soul, and she does a good job with the kids, and she was with us before. She really does, and she did a great job in the summer, and I love her, and I pick on her. Amplify is professional development, Rick?
Yes, it is.
For science, for teachers?
Yes.
A math workshop on the 26th that Rick is coordinating for teachers on a Saturday?
Yes, it's for teachers in grades 3 through 6.
Rick is coordinating an AIS elementary math workshop on March 11th. That's a professional development workshop.
It's yes, for the new pilot teachers in the math AAS program at the elementary level.
The National Federation for Just Communities has been the group we've worked with to present diversity training. And in this time, they're going to start working with our teachers on preparing for refugee populations.
Yes, they're going to be doing 7 different presentations throughout the day.
And number 12 you've had before, that's for Circles of Restorative Justice. You can see March 11th is on a lot of these. That is a staff development day, and we're bringing in outside providers as well as in-district trainers. We have one grant, and this is Rick's grant. It's for $98,000. It is a grant to help us with our learning technology. This will help us with our remote learners and credit recovery. 602. I'm going to tell you something here. We need to have a special meeting. This is a Tuesday, members of the board, not a Thursday. And the reason it's a Tuesday is because we need to approve the BOCES budget that night. The BOCES budget has to, it's always funky once a year, right? You remember this? So we are going to invite our BOCES board members. That's okay. And we'll present the BOCES budget. I have to tell you something else. We're going to need another special meeting because what I'd like to do is I'd like to present my budget to you on April 7th. I think with the information we have now, with the fact that I believe we'll have an on-time budget on April 1st, I think we can wrap up the budget April 7th. And I'd like to I'd like to recommend the final budget to you. You already have a meeting scheduled that night. It's just a work session like this, but I'd like to make it a voting meeting probably for one item, and that's to approve the budget and the property tax report card. I'd like to do that before the Easter break. I think we'll have enough information to do that. So, Judy, with the board's permission, I'd like to add one more special meeting on April 7th.
On 602?
Yeah.
That indicates it's Thursday, April 26th.
Okay, it should be a Tuesday, right?
It's already been changed. Okay, I had put that on the March agenda, but we can move it to February if you prefer.
Either one. Okay, either one, Judy. I don't, we just have to do it. We just have to do it. We have to have 2 voting meetings in April, not 1.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Wrong day.
Right. So, March meetings are March 10th and 24th. April meetings are April 7th and 26th. April 7th, I want to have the budget finalized. I think we can do it. April 26th is not Thursday, it's Tuesday. And the reason it's Tuesday is because the next day, we have to have our vote in for the BOCES budget. Has anything changed on the election sites, Jude?
Nothing at all. Nope. Same as always.
What's the date, Judy?
The election is May 17th.
We'll have a meeting on May 18th.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
That's another date that it's a Wednesday. It's the day after the election and the budget. That meeting's on a Wednesday in May, not the normal Thursday. The only change that I can see happening is what you saw from NTS. Remember the sign-in, the way you sign in? It's the only change we've made. We're not changing any polling places. The only change is you'll sign in electronically in the 23 or 24 districts.
Correct.
604 is Aries Transportation. We continue, Mr. Bilson will love this, we continue to use Aries to do bus runs. So I'm going to just exacerbate your point. Not only are we paying that contract, but we're adding to the budget by paying for Aries to make out of district though, out of district payment. But we have to get these kids here. We have to get them there. We have to. But you are paying for that more. We are paying for it. So, Rob, I'm not picking on you. I'm just telling you. This is an unforeseen, but we have to do it. I can't have the special ed kids not get there. It's not right. 605, this is for Mr. Cunningham. It's no change in his contract. No addition, no subtraction. He's working under the same contract. You know Mr. Cunningham. 606 is Mr. Schimmel. I think I need to bring him here to quickly share what he has found and not found, but I'd like to try this one more year. 607 is to pay Ferguson Electric $38,624 for the wiring and fiber they're pulling for the new camera system. And 608 is to pay Danforth $40,825 because they put in a new freezer at Abbott. If you remember, they put it in. That's coming out of the cafeteria funds. I think everything is done with that except the shelving. We're just waiting for shelving, and then Abbott will have a new walk-in freezer. Remember, we had to spend cafeteria money. That's what's paying for that. That's not capital projects. That is Danforth through a bid for the freezer at Abbott.
Mark?
Yeah.
Before we get too far, I got a 606. I thought you said there was some big news coming down the line with this, and
it hasn't panned out.
Okay.
We could talk about. I mean, we could talk about continuing or not.
Yeah. You want to talk about it now or later?
I'm fine anytime you want. I'll talk about it anytime you want.
No, I'm just saying. I know you want to try to give it one more year, but what's this? 2 years, 2 full years now he's been with it.
Two full years. Yeah.
And I haven't seen a lot of progress going on. I don't know how much good it's doing, but I don't know.
You're not wrong. We haven't brought
I mean,
you a
I'll
lot.
listen to him, but I'm not too impressed with what's he's produced. So
we could.
I like the guy, nice guy, and everything else, but I'm just not happy with the results.
We could pull this, table it, bring him in here and talk. I'm happy to do that. No, this is just. I'll just take it off. We don't need to table it. Based on Mr. Vellaro's comments, I'm seeing a head nod there. I'm happy to. I don't disagree with you, Nick. The only thing I would say, respectfully, COVID was there, but with that comment, board members, and I appreciate it, would you mind if we didn't need to table it, we'll remove it and bring it in for a presentation, and then we could always put it back on. Or not. Okay. All right. So everything here will stay. We'll just pull 606. Judy will do her magic, and we'll go. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. No policies. Then we've got our comments. We'll adjust those. I'm going to adjust those. That's March. Just wanted to show you the dates are 10 and 24. We'll adjust those. Miss Maria has personnel. Thank you for your comments. Are you humming? I'm just like, where's the humming coming from?
Sorry,
I'm teasing you.
enjoying myself, Mr.
You can go ahead anytime you want.
Teasing you. I'm teasing her. Maria, you know what I tell her? I only pick on the people I love.
Yeah.
And I'm smothering you, Earl. And you know, Maria, you know, and the board knows, you and Becky feel that I show favoritism to Earl.
You do show favoritism to Earl. It's not that we feel it, it's a fact. All right, so, certificated report. And we had to amend the probationary appointment of the ELL teacher. That was because we changed her locations, and that was that. Regular substitute appointments of a music teacher at Gaskill and a special education teacher at Gaskill. We have no 60-day conversions at this point. We may have by your next meeting, but I don't think so. I think they're going to come in March. An involuntary transfer, this is directly connected to the ELL teacher's assignment. A leave of absence. And then the next you see here is some per diem for a learning technology grant. And we have a very big trauma training coming up on February 26th. It's going to be a per diem for 115 of our staff members.
And just so you know, if you look at the code, that's an F code, that's a grant, that's not the general fund money. That's part of how we got the grant, and we're paying for that out of the grant money. It's from the federal government through the University of Buffalo.
Okay, then Schedule B, another piece of the learning technology grant. And as you go through, it's different Schedule B appointments, and there will be some additional Schedule B before the next meeting.
And Mr. Capizzi, I'm not trying to insult you in any way, but I just want you to know, when you see an F, that means it was from a grant. If you see an A, that's from the $153 million in front. And if you knew that, I apologize. I just wanted you to know that that's F. Anything F is paid for out of a grant. Anything A is paid for out of that big budget Julie and Becky put up. Anything called with a C is from the cafeteria budget. Is there any other budgets? H. H is capital projects. Not that you got to memorize them, but those are the different funds that we have, and that's how we pay them.
And on the classified report, you see several retirements. Those are effective June 30th. You see a couple of resignations of a food service helper and a temporary pre-K associate. No terminations at this time.
Excuse me.
Some probationary appointments, voluntary transfer, leaves of absence, and then change of status. You have multiple change of status. We had appointed a considerable number of people at the beginning of the school year, if you remember, and all of those folks are now transitioning from probationary to permanent assignments. And then we have our 2 technology interns listed here. These are new employees who are interning in the Information Services Office to help with the transition as we have some other employees retire. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Maria, do you anticipate a lot of asterisks?
I do not. There will be, in terms of Schedule B, yes, and most likely maybe a couple of conversions. I doubt it. Where we'll see the most changes would be on the classified report, because we're probably going to be adding the school office support clerks and the secretary too.
Yes, Russ. School office support clerks. And the what?
Secretary 2.
Yes, right.
Secretary 2, and the
people.
potential senior school monitors, depending on how that looks.
Yeah, so we've been moving some people, so those may be asterisks on your report, because Maria just finished interviews on Tuesday. With Becky and Earl. Okay. So that's where we're moving. We would like to add those before, okay? Members of the board, I'm going to ask for an executive session for 2 items, but I just want to give you a couple of updates, if I may. This Saturday, and for all of you who are listening, Senator Ort has asked to use Niagara Falls High School as a backdrop for a press conference that he would like to have in front of the school. And he's certainly still our senator. And the purpose of the press conference, and he's asked me to join him, is to talk about the mask mandate continuing for schools, where it hasn't continued for the rest of the public. So it is going to be in front of Niagara Falls High School at 12:15. It is going to be brief, 20 minutes. A press release will come out tomorrow from Senator Ort's office. He does appreciate this Board of Education very much. I did mention this to you in an email or text, but he would like to use that. I am going to speak. It is my belief, and I know there are both sides to the story, but it is my belief that our COVID cases are dropping significantly. We had 2 yesterday, we have 2 today. We are doing another test kit giveaway. I believe it's time to allow the mask mandate to become one if you choose to, not one of mandatory nature. And that's the genesis, that's not the genesis, that's the tenor and tone of the press conference. And I think we've talked about this here at the board meeting. That's my position. And I have shared it with a story I was interviewed for at the Buffalo News today. My position on masks it's time to give either a local board of education the ability to decide, or a parent or an adult the ability to decide. Yes, sir.
Mark, I was going to ask a question, but the way you framed the end of that, I just want to confirm again. I know you're doing a great job of having solidarity with the other superintendents, which I think is great. Do you, as the superintendent, does this board, or do both of us together have the power to decide today, if we wanted to, that we would like to do exactly what you just said and make it voluntary, say tomorrow? Do we have the power to do that?
It's my opinion, and I'll ask the attorneys to think about my statement. It's my opinion that, and my recommendation that I wouldn't do that. Whether you have the power to do it, I think is more of a legal question. I wouldn't recommend it for a couple of reasons. One, I think that the end is in sight. Number 2, our insurance company has continued to advise us to follow, legally or not legally, to follow the governor's directive. And I don't want to risk any kind of insurance opening. 3, the commissioner has said in writing to me that she is responsible for my license and that I would be putting my license in jeopardy. And again, there is an illustration of that at a school district in the southern tier when that superintendent's license was put to a Part 83. So I don't know, Mr. Massaro, Mr. Rossetti, Ms. Massaro, if you would want to weigh in legally. I wouldn't recommend it, Mr. Bilson. Some superintendents are saying that same thing from their board. I'm not going to recommend it. However, I suppose, before the lawyers weigh in, that if the 9 of you told me to do it, if I'm just speaking bluntly to you, I would say I'd really like that in writing from you, and I will follow your directive. Maria, Angelo, Jim, do you have a question, answer to his point?
I agree with the recitation. So if we said we wanted you to do it, if we agreed, and by the way, I'm not stating which side of the fence we're on.
Yeah.
I'm asking questions.
I know. I like it.
But I do like that you believe we're close, which I hope is the case.
I really do.
But if we're not close, I think we need to have a serious conversation. But just real quick, so if we did do that, and we agreed as a board, or any board agreed, to ask you respectfully to move forward with voluntary masks, Mark would still have his license in jeopardy if we made that decision?
Use your mic, Ange, please. Get him to use his mic. And you know what, just while he's doing it, we talk about this every Tuesday as superintendents.
Okay, now it's on. The original question, I probably would be contrary to some views even around the dinner table. The original question is the authority given to the governor to make that mandate. And it is my opinion that as long as the governor has the mandate, has the authority to make mandate, that to do otherwise would be contrary to the law. That is my firm conviction. Now, if you're that firm about it, then an action should be taken to question the authority of the governor. If you are against the law, then it does put or the superintendent's license in jeopardy, and it also puts your position on the board in jeopardy if it's proven that the governor has the authority and you've gone contrary to the authority. Now, I know that seems very firm, but that's my train of thought as far as this entire discussion has been on the emergency, the legislature giving the governor the authority and following through on it. And we know that there are challenges made against the authority given to the governor and others also on it. But so far as today is concerned, I understand the mandate is in effect
Yes, sir.
for the schools.
Yes, sir.
And if that's the case, I think this board and the superintendent is obligated to continue that way. And if they feel otherwise, authorize your attorneys to take action against the governor to prove that she is unable to do it.
Interesting.
Mr. Massaro, thank you for that response. I think that's helpful for anyone listening to understand the situation that we're all up against. And Mark, thank you for listening.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We in the spirit of being really honest, every Tuesday when we meet as superintendents, we go through the same thing. I do, Mr. Bilson, and I don't have any inside information, but I do believe, and that's why I want to host this press conference. And I do believe that is the way to move things now. I think some politicians are very sensitive to these kind of things and they listen. I do. I think articles, I know I have a huge ego, as you know, but that's why I go on TV, A, to speak for the district, but B, because I think people do listen. What, are you shaking your head because I have a big ego, Nick? But I think I think we're close. And when I mean close, 3 or 4 weeks.
She said she's only going to do this. I watched her conference. She said she's only going to do this until after spring break. When we break for the spring and when she comes back, she'll make, her final decision. So
Winter
right
break or
now,
spring
it's only mandated until spring break.
Well, unlike us, we have a day off on the 21st, I think. We don't have that 1 week, but a lot of districts take that 1 week. And I think she's worried about that 1 week and then everybody, but it doesn't make any sense to me because everybody's out there anyways. What difference does it make? And the transmission in school isn't happening. So I'm getting much more impatient about it. Much more impatient. And my position, so you know, unless you tell me differently, because I do listen to you and you are my boss. And I take that seriously and mean that appropriately. My position is it's time. We all should move together away from this. And God forbid, LaSalle Prep had an outbreak, 40, 50, I'd come back to you and say, look, I'm worried. We got to do something.
We're having outbreak. My daughter's whole basketball team had the outbreak, and they're all okay. God bless. Thank God. But it's.
Yeah. We have the levers now. It's been 2 years. We know what we have to do. It's time to go back. I think it does have a subtle effect on kids. And the other thing I would do, just so I would not say to Mr. Velardo, you can't wear your mask. If you'd like to wear your mask, wear your mask. If your parents want you to, wear your mask. I'm not going to call a code of conduct violation. I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure you're not being shamed for wearing that, bullied for wearing that. Make your own parental adult choice. 2 years into this, all of the shots, vaccinations, tests, you've had your chance. Make your choice. Be respectful of one another. Don't shame anybody for wearing one, and let's move forward with this sense of new normal. That's my position.
By the way, I just want to clarify. I have no idea if the entire basketball team had COVID. I was being dramatic, but people are catching it with masks or without masks. That's just my point.
They are. I received a lot of calls today, and all I said today was be patient. Just be patient.
It's interesting
Use your mic.
When I see kids, I ask them, if the mask mandate is removed, would you still wear them? All the kids I ask say yes.
Yeah, I think that was the question asked to me today by the paper. I don't think it's going to be like graduation day and the mortar boards are going to go, whatever they're called, going to go in the air. I think, because we did it in summer school. It was optional in summer school. 80% of the kids wore them. Now, they might have put them on their chin, but they wore them, right? I think that's what's going to happen. Slowly, you'll see it fade away. It's time, it's time, it's time, it's time, it's time, it's time. You're all welcome. You're all invited, of course. The senator appreciates you. He wanted me to share that with you. 12:15, it will be 20 minutes, and if the weather is cold, we're going to step inside the foyer of the high school. 12:15. Now, I do want to tell you one other thing. The senator asked me to have a parent. Do I know of a parent who would like to speak? So, what I did is, do you know the parents who have spoken at the board meeting? I called all of those parents today and gave them the opportunity to speak. One would like to. You remember the people that have come forward? Judy helped me find out who they were. I called them personally today, and one has been the elected speaker. So she will be there. And she appreciated the call, and so I thought that was the best group to go to, right? So.
Will Starbucks be open?
No, unless Earl will be there with hot coffee and soda. Our prep school kids are putting on Freaky Friday. It's their prep drama show. Tonight, probably over. Tomorrow and Saturday at 7 o'clock. I want to just tell everyone, I'm proud of this. I don't know if you remember this before COVID or not, but we had a trip planned for students to go on a service project to Ghana. Remember this? We had to cancel it. We are sending 25 Niagara Falls High School students, chaperones, and community members on a tour of historically black colleges through the South, and that's coming up at the end of April. Just so you know, and we'll give you a report back. But the kids at high school have wanted to do that. We have 2 audits. One began today. Our $4.3 million UPK audit is under the state will be here to audit our $4.3 million of universal pre-K money. Kathy Sullivan through Rick and Richard through Becky and myself will be that audit team. And we are also having an audit. Well, they all come in bunches, right? We're having a $5 million audit of our Title I, Title II, Title IV, and homeless grant. That's about $5.3 million. And again, the whole team, Rick, the whole team will be involved with that, as well as my secretary, Barbara Dotson, and myself. That will go through August, so they're going to be here a long time auditing us with that, and we'll make sure we give you an update. Last but not least, this was interesting. This came to us without being asked. They heard about your decision to rename Blaniva Bond School. Alfred University, through one of our teachers, has a colleague, it's Rob Lynch, the art teacher, has a colleague at Art Force 5, and the state has selected for Women's History Month 30 significant women in the state of New York, and Dr. Blaniva Bond, because of your nomination, is one of the 30 women. And we're going to get all kinds of free stuff for this. They're going to help us in the celebration. She's here. There is also trading cards. I mean, they're going to just keep filling us with merchandise. Dr. Bond is a trading card, and I just thought you'd like the back of this. The Niagara Falls City School District's Board of Education voted to, I mean, it tells stats on here, voted to, and it tells all of what you did on the back of these trading cards that are going to go through all the sets. Yeah, I also have an Earl Smeal trading card here. It talks about energy. No, he didn't get nominated for anything. But I just thought it was kind of a nice honor. It's kind of a nice honor. And what they're going to do is one of the Niagara Street students is going to, they have Dr. Blaniva Bond basketball jerseys. and they're going to give, Dorothy Brundage is selecting a second grader to wear it and go on a statewide video, talk to the parents, go on a statewide video. And this is a partnership with Niagara Community College. They're going to do a mosaic for the school. We're going to do a mosaic for the school. It was just nice that they recognized and picked up on what you did. And I just thought it was a cool thing. We didn't even ask for this. They found us out. It really was because of the skill of Rob Lynch, in my opinion. But, you know, that's really why it happened. But I thought this was pretty cool. Yeah, so and you can see the back. These are going all over the state. So your names will be all over the state on that. And there she is right here. And I think in the state, March 29th will be Dr. Blaniva Bond Day. So we'll get some press out on that too. So pretty cool, pretty cool. I believe that those are all of the issues, updates, you know, a lot of finances. Unless you have any other questions for me. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious, because I'm a new board member, and anything I hear about schools, of course, my ears peak up. I just want to know how and why the incident about gas skills teacher got on the news, and you didn't have, I didn't see you making any comment about it. Is that customary that they can come in and do that?
They've called me and I made a statement.
Okay, because they didn't have that on TV.
I made a statement, and I will talk more about that later. But they did call me, every station's called me, and I did make a statement. So, yeah, they call a lot.
They just wanted a I know for Channel 7, they just wanted a statement. They didn't want an interview or anything, they just wanted to confirm that it happened, and that it happened as they had read it other places. And so we confirmed what was true. It was, you know, Channel 2 did something.
Channel 4
and Channel 4.
just, you know, ran it across the screen and, you know, made it seem like we didn't have an opportunity to, you know, to make a statement about it.
And you know what's interesting about that? I spoke to 7, and I spoke to 2, and I spoke to BEN. I didn't speak to Channel 4.
Yeah.
So I spoke, I can remember the time. I was leaving these two gentlemen when I spoke to Channel 7. I talked to somebody at 1:30 that same day when I talked to Channel 2. WBEN did not talk to me. They wrote me and said, can you say yes or no? And I said yes. It was just general information, but I never spoke to Channel 4. Other questions? I would like to request an executive session for 2 items. Neither items will require us to vote on anything afterwards. The 2 items are going to be both for the personal matters which may lead to the demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a person, persons, or corporation in both cases.
I have a motion by Mr. Velardo, second by Mr. Bilson. And any questions? Mr. Velardo. Mr. Bilson, yes?
Yes.
Mr. Consemi. Mr. Capizzi. Mike, yes?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
You got, your vote for executive session? Yes. Clara?
Clara,
Ms. Dunn?
vote for executive session?
Tony?
Yes.
7 yea, no nay. You're welcome. Good night, everybody.